Hello, listeners. And I was saying in the intro, today we're having a great guest who I've known for a number of years now, Chris Smith. And, Chris, thanks for making time. I guess you're up in the great Northwest. Where are you today?
I appreciate having me today, Bryan. I'm in my home, which is actually, it's a log house or a cabin, if you will. It's probably too big to be a cabin, but it's no log mansion, I can tell you that. But it's a nice little place here just south of the Canadian border. So I reside most of my time in the state of Washington, with the business being just across the border here in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Well, I really appreciate you making time. And as I mentioned in the intro, Chris and I served together on the formerly IRSA, now HFA board, and Chris did a lot of work there, as chair, and I know did a lot of heavy lifting during the that special period of time, which will remain nameless, Chris. I don't want to use the C word, but anyway, it's great to see you. And I've been following your video work and some of the content you're producing, and a little of the background of what you're working on with Fitness World, which we'll get into. But I always like to ask our guests from the beginning, tell us, what brought you into the fitness industry? Tell the people what your story is. How did you arrive here?
Yeah, and I think I've said it a few times. That perhaps there's some folks out there listening today in your audience that have never heard it before. But yeah, I was a football player. Was playing some professional football in the form of arena football, and needed to find a job in the off season, and so that's what I did. And I was asking folks for construction jobs and whatnot, because that's what I'd grown up doing with my dad as a young man. And they were like, "You're huge," and I was like, "Yeah, thanks for the update." So for those of you that are just listening, I'm about 6'5", 300 pounds these days, 290 on a good day. But anyway, big dude. And so, yeah, I played college football and then was playing some professional football, and yeah, kind of fell into the personal training business. Now, I was studying in university to be a CSCS. I wanted to be a strength conditioning coach and help other athletes, be strong and able to compete at their sports at the highest level and that sort of thing. And so it wasn't like a large jump or a leap. I wasn't studying, engineering and then all of a sudden fell into personal training. I was always enamored with movement, the human body, its response to, stimulus, if you will, in the form of strength conditioning, nutrition, that sort of stuff. And so that's how I kind of got started, right? It was a Gold's Gym in Portland, Oregon, and I worked there for a year, independent trainer for a couple of years. And then one thing turned into another, and I just turned out that, I was able to kind of match passion and purpose and find my why, and all the kind of things aligned for me. And I've never left.
Well, we're glad you haven't left. So what's going on at Fitness World? I know you ended up there and you run that organization. I've seen some things that you're working on there. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, the Fitness World story, we're really proud. This is our 6-year anniversary. I was able to buy the business with some new partners out of the pandemic. That former ownership had put what was then called the Steve Nash Fitness World and Sports Clubs into a bankruptcy insolvency situation in the early days of the pandemic, and really was handed, I kind of like to tell people, a dump truck worth of lemonades. And when they're like, a dump truck worth, I'm like, well, I had to fire 2,000 people in 7 days. So I had 2,000 lemons, and it wasn't fun, and it was a really tough time. But I made it through it. My team made it through it. What I like to tell people is moments in time like that, they either make you or break you. And I think for me, and then subsequently my team, it made us, and it shaped in kind of who we are today. And so, yeah, we reinvented and reimagined the brand, the business model, everything from job descriptions to scope of work to naming conventions, color, logo, font, brand guidelines, you name it, we reinvented it. And it was an opportunity to do that, right? It was a fresh start. And so that's what we did. And we're really proud of what we've been able to build over the last 6 years. And yeah, we're really excited about the plan ahead, which does involve a lot of growth.
Yeah, I've been seeing franchising and other things. How many units do you have now operating, Chris?
Yeah, we have 18 clubs open, and I have a 19th one under construction here, but I've got some stuff in deal flow going on in the state of Washington, some stuff in Idaho, stuff in the province of Alberta, stuff in the province of Ontario. So the scary reality is, my job right now is just trying to make sure we steer the ship the right way, but it's putting ourselves in a position to, we might be pretty close to doubling the size of the company in the next 12 months. And that's corporate stores. That's not franchise growth. Behind that is the franchise growth, the franchise story, which we should go to market with our FDDs and all that kind of documentation here sometime by the end of the third quarter for sure. So yeah, we're real excited about that. And that'll be another kind of phase in the journey of, sharing the story, if you will, like what are we good at and why do we believe in it? And why do we think we're different, and all the things that go with it.
Yeah. I always enjoyed talking with you about your view. I've heard, you talk privately on the board and in other chats we've had about things that are happening in the space. What is there a trend or some things that you think right now are maybe a little underappreciated that are going on in the market from your perspective? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of, there's always a lot of discussion or talk amongst different individuals and constituents in the industry. And I don't necessarily know how they come to their information, if it's truly informed decisions or opinions, if you will, but I hear a lot of weird stuff, truthfully, where I'm not sure necessarily, how true it is. I guess if anything, I'd say I think there's just like a lot of industries. I mean, I was even reading something in the Wall Street Journal this weekend where a lot of the big companies are back to having a hiring push, like they laid off too many people or they froze too many hiring. So the big thing I think in the industry, as we in our own industry embrace AI and continue to move down that pathway, is don't underappreciate human capital,
Or
right? And so for me, one of my key phrases I learned a long time in my career was never stop doing what got you promoted. And what got me promoted and helped me get the career I have was being the kind of leader I wanted to be, treating people a certain way, finding great people to put around myself. And I don't think anything there has changed. And so as much as I think everyone wants to push on technology, I'd say first and foremost, do you have the right people? And even back to technology, as an example, is all of our membership systems, right, and or our members, like those lists, if you will. Well, that's a database, and so we've got all these people that are really good at IT system security, this, and that. We got lots of those, but I truthfully don't think in our industry, specifically, we don't have enough good database people, which makes it really sticky and hard to get your data out and be as quick to action with it as we'd like to, especially for SMBs, smaller studios, whatever. And I fall into that category as what I would call an SMB or a larger SMB, if you will. But my ability to get my data, use my data, manipulate my data without the use of, say, a big data warehouse is a challenge, right? And so I think that is a bit underappreciated or misunderstood. And not to say that those operators don't want that data, but it's finding the pathway to get there. And so how and where our industry continues to evolve and support those SMBs and those studios, I think is going to be important because they don't all have the resources to go out and get a data warehouse.
Yeah, data warehouse is a big deal. That's right. And it's funny you don't really hear that discussed as much as you might think you should, given what you just said. I know a lot of people rely on CRMs or they have disparate data, and many companies don't have a single source of truth around their data.
Yeah.
Come on. There you go.
I'm back. You're back.
All right, so we're still recording now, it looks like. So that's amazing how it does that. So anyway, sorry. So I was just talking about data lakes, Chris, and we'll edit this out so no one even knows. It's so amazing to me how, there aren't a lot of people, because they have data in disparate locations, et cetera, that even understand what a data lake is and how important it is today. I think it's kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, I think it's probably, for a lot of operators, it's not something that they're necessarily understanding. But again, when you're thinking about retention and like the member induction experience, and if I could do this and do that, and some of these decisions might be micro in nature, where it might add 1 or 2 weeks to a member life cycle, and some might add 1 or 2 months, and all of that is meaningful when you add it all up, right? It's like anything, when you tell people. So like I tell people, say, if you're walking down the street, would you pick up a nickel or dime? And a lot of people say no. My answer is yes. I'll pick them all up, because eventually they're going to add up to $1 or $2. Yeah. And that's, it starts to become more meaningful versus like, I just walk over. It's just meaningless change. Well, that stuff does add up to something. And again, cumulatively, if I can add to lifetime member value and I can use data, and then my ability to then use that data to create the member experience that I'm ultimately trying to do, then I can impact my outcomes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that has impressed me about you, because I remember when I was first talking with you at depth about different operational matters, is you've always tended to be an early adopter of technology in general, Chris. I mean, I remember you showing me some tools on the marketing end that you were using. How has technology, you mentioned the data lakes, but how has technology influenced you and your business in the last several years? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? I mean, I think some of it was a little bit by accident. I mean, I think I was curious, but one of my clients back in my early personal training days was the head of college sales for Apple Computer for like the Western states. And a really good client, trained with me like 4 times a week, wanted to get in shape, be stronger, this sort of thing. And yeah, it turned into a great relationship where he wanted to start helping me out. And I was like, well, what can you do for me? His name was Enrique. And Enrique started giving me Apple computers. And so I had my team using Apple computers in early days as a trainer, and then subsequently even Palm Pilots to manage our schedules. And we were doing trainer business plans and trainer renewal calendars. And this is all nearly 30 years ago now, way ahead of what I would call its time. And so what I continue to do, and it's interesting because with some of the stuff that you mentioned that I do on like the Smittyville podcast, whatever, there's some people that comments like, dude, you're saying the same thing that you were saying 25, 30 years ago. And it's like, in some cases, yes, but I am saying it to a different audience. You're having to package it differently to a different generation of team members, but we're now able to use technology in a way to really optimize it and do so in an intelligent manner. So yeah, we're looking at customer data, and we're looking at things from what we would call, like in our business life cycle for a personal training client, as an example, we'd look at like Packer. So participation, activation, completion, and renewal. And what is that workflow? Does it meet our standards, if you will? Are we delivering on the customer experience that we know based on, again, the data that customer is looking for? So, we're doing a lot of that right now. And then, yeah, we're certainly trying to optimize the business across other, what I would call, I guess, AI use cases, scenarios, and things that have been proven, meaning we're not trying to be tip of the spear experimental. It's who's doing it? What's their success look like? Can you show me an example? Okay, that makes sense for my business. So yeah, we're working with a number of different groups around synthesizing our APIs faster, getting our reporting more quickly, making sure it's accurate and timely, make sure the webhooks are available for what we need, when we need it, how we need it, like all that type of stuff, right? It's kind of a never ending, I would say, challenge, which is, to keep up with the pace of the evolution of technology. But again, you can't do all things either, right? So it's kind of picking a path, knowing your strategy, and then sticking to it.
Do you think, because you've heard the stories, people try to adopt these things and they fail. Do you think a lot of people suffer from FOMO? They're just trying to chase the shiny new object without understanding context when they make those kind of errors of adoption, or what would you how would you characterize that?
I think there's a balance to it. I think it's are you a subject matter expert? And I think nowadays, again, with the use of AI, I think a lot of people think they're subject matter experts because they're like, no, I have a friend, and their name is Claude, and I've got like agents that I built, and they help me. And it's like, I can appreciate that, but that's not necessarily a subject matter expert on real-time things. So I think that's where I tend to go, right? Like, I'd rather maybe spend a little bit more upfront in terms of capital and consulting fees, if you will, to make sure I've got the right group of people around me to make that best right decision. And then again, yeah, you can structure however you want. But so I guess to answer your question, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, I think people don't necessarily understand how deep the deep end is, or that the whole pool is a giant deep end, right? There is nowhere to stand up and take a break. So you better know what you're getting yourself into before you jump in there. And so, yeah, just making informed decisions, having the right people around you in the form of, again, team members and human capital, or the appropriate consultants or subject matter experts, so that you can get it right the first time. Because if you don't, that to me is where you're going to overspend money and waste a bunch of time, because you didn't have the right people with the right seats on the bus to begin with.
Yeah, that's wisdom. That's wisdom. People tend to rush sometimes and try to do it too fast without really understanding what they're getting into. Like you said, they can't stand up in the deep end of the pool, and that's a lot of truth. They really don't understand what. And as you pointed out before, I heard you say it. Technologies are an enabler. They're not the center of the plate. You use them as tools to get the important stuff done in a better way. You think that's a fair characterization?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Particularly for our industry, right? Like, service is where it's at. I mean, I often tell people there's two businesses where people take a shower: hotel, motel, and gyms. Hotel, motel, you do it in the privacy of your own room. We got members that take showers next to other members. And you could say, well, there's partitions or stalls, there's a curtain. It's like, I get it, but it's a nuanced, different type of beast. It's its own niche thing. Because I often have even people outside our industry. What's your industry like? Is it like hospitality? Is it like retail? And I'm like, it's like a lot of things, but it's its own thing.
Yeah, good observation. So tell us, because you've had such an incredible career and you're doing even more stuff now, I always like to ask our guests some pearls of wisdom, insights, because as you mentioned, you've gone through several stages of life, but even more particularly with your acquisition only a number of years ago through a very tough time. What are some of the points, the wisdom that you would share with other folks who are in the space, with things they should keep in mind as they go through their careers or their businesses?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And, I was thinking a little bit about it when I first got your note, kind of with an outline for today. And then even as I was thinking about what would be an appropriate answer. And I think it's timely in the nature of, even with the growth that I'm, talking about. I mean, it's the timing of what you do, when you do it, how you do it. But really, for me, it's about betting on yourself. So if you are a self-aware leader or a self-aware individual, and you know who you are and what you stand for and what you believe in, what your own capacity, your own capabilities are, then you know when and how much you should bet on yourself. And then if you know that, and when you know that, then do it. And so again, I say that because people always ask me, how do I get where you are? How do I do what you've done? Or how do I do this? And to me, it's like, you can't. And I actually tell people that. I'm like, you won't work 6 days a week for 12 hours a day for 20 plus years. That's what I had to do. That's what I did. And if you want to do that, and you're willing to put down and lay down that kind of effort and that level of effort to go from a trainer to an entrepreneur, then yeah, you could, but it's likely that you wouldn't, or you won't, and you won't exercise the self-discipline, so on and so forth. And all those things, to me, is really, that's betting on yourself. Like, if you're boiling down, what is it really about? I think it's betting on yourself, believing in you when no one else does.
Yeah, boy, that's some wisdom, Chris. And I always like your straight talk. You always bring up very salient and common sense comments to these questions, which I've always appreciated about you, especially when we were going through a lot of times together that were very difficult. You always had a good sense of basic wisdom, and that makes a lot of sense. Believe in yourself. So for the listeners, look, we're going to have links to Chris on LinkedIn, is in the show notes, along with you're doing video all the time. I see you right now. So we'll link you, and I love your content. I think you're doing a great job at that.
Yeah, appreciate it. I've got my partner at ATFW, Chrissy Van, helping me out. And so, yeah, we're producing some new content called Smittyville. There's some other stuff that we're slowly starting to tease out that is truthfully another business venture that we're not really ready to talk about just yet, but something else that we're working on there in the world of personal training. So something we're really excited about. But yeah, we're doing a bunch of different stuff and different content. Yeah, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, Instagram, all your different platforms, and all that Smittyville content. If those are, individuals are interested, it's on anywhere and everywhere that you would listen to podcasts. So it's available and accessible.
Yeah, we'll have the links in the show notes for everybody. Chris, thanks for making some time to chat with everyone and let them know what you're up to and sharing your experiences and wisdom. And I know I'm going to see you around at the shows, and we'll be following closely your continued success in the chain of clubs you continue to build upon. So congratulations. And again, thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks for your time today, Bryan. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye-bye.